Live from Bloomberg's world headquarters in New York, I'm Sonali Basak.
And I'm Tim Stenivek. Welcome to Bloomberg Crypto. It's a look at the people, transactions, and technology shaping the world of decentralized finance.
And Donald Trump returns to the White House, the crypto industry eager and optimistic on what the new administration will bring for companies and investors.
And world leaders and financial executives meeting in Davos this week. That includes Circle CEO Jeremy Allaire. We speak to him about Trump, plus a new deal for the company.
Also with us, Coinbase's head of U.S. policy, Calvert. Her firm was one of the biggest backers of pro-crypto politicians.
All that and more coming up ahead on Bloomberg Crypto. First, though, a look at Bitcoin. Since the weekend, that was when many in the crypto community descended on Washington, D.C. for inaugural festivities. We did see Bitcoin hit a fresh record just yesterday, ahead of Donald Trump's swearing-in ceremony. It went above $109,000 per Bitcoin before later falling to about $100,000 per Bitcoin. Right now, it's at $104,000. Let's go ahead and round that up to $105,000, up over the last 5 days about 4.8%. Now, the market was expecting an executive order in support of crypto. That didn't appear in Trump's flurry of actions on his first day in office. Has only been a day, though. He did focus instead on topics, Sonali, such as immigration, trade, energy, and yes, TikTok.
That doesn't mean that crypto was not front and center in the inauguration, of course, because you did have the crypto ball. Executives across the industry were with Trump this weekend, meeting with a lot of lawmakers from what I had heard as well, and dressed at their finest at the ball. Bitcoin miners, CEOs of exchanges, and politicians were all there in D.C. to celebrate a new era, what they believe, for crypto. Also, Trump and his wife, Melania, also unveiled tokens that whipsawed the market by diverting flows. The tokens are built on the Solana platform, and Trump's hit a market capitalization of $14 billion before coming back down to closer to $7 billion in less than 4 days. An 80% share of the Trump token is owned by a Trump organization affiliate called CIC Digital.
Well, let's talk about this Trump token and the expected action from his administration with Bloomberg's Zeke Fox. He's the author of Number Go Up. Zeke, good to see you. Sonali, just mentioning these two tokens, the president himself calling his own at least a meme coin. I do wonder, he did call it a meme, I should say, when he announced it on social media. Is this positive for the industry with the folks you talk to? Is that how it's seen?
I mean, people in the industry are reacting really negatively to this. And I mean, what I would say is that they're actually a little upset that Trump has launched his own coin. I mean, to me, it seems a little bit like sour grapes. Their opinion is like, hey, we donated all this money so that you would help promote our coins, not release your own coin that you're going to make money off of. I mean, it's pretty wild. To me, it's almost as if Trump lined the National Mall with slot machines and was like, hey, while you're here for my inauguration, why don't you play some Trump slots?
With that said, it's interesting to see actually Solana down today, because that was what this was really being used to launch it. Other than the meme coin, what happens with crypto at large? Because if he didn't come in with a swooping move on day one, is there some doubt that he will be as friendly as initially meets the eye?
I don't think there's much doubt. I mean, he has said that his government policy will basically be number go up. Like, let's watch Bitcoin go to the moon. That's kind of priced in. So I think some of the crazy trading is just like, when is he going to do it? How many Bitcoins will he say the U.S. government will buy? But I don't think there's much doubt that he will deregulate crypto and enact some of the policies the industry has been pushing for.
Which policies specifically should we be keeping an eye out for? What should our audience try to understand as the administration gets going and it's just first few days?
I mean, one of the biggest things is that under Gary Gensler, the SEC filed lawsuits against many of the biggest crypto companies that can sort of be boiled down to a lot of the activity on your exchanges is illegal. And these lawsuits represented like an existential threat to the crypto industry in the US. The incoming administration has said they're going to drop a lot of those cases. It'll be interesting to see if that means all crypto cases or just certain ones.
Zeke, we thank you so much for joining us, of course, on the first day after the inauguration. Big moves for the crypto industry. Don't miss Zeke's book, Number Go Up. Speaking of numbers going up in crypto, you can buy them wherever you buy your books.
Well, leaders in Davos discussing the overarching impact that Trump will have on their industries. State Street CEO Ron O'Hanley from Davos discussing what he wants to see when it comes to banking.
Digital assets and a framework, a regulatory framework for that would be very helpful. With crypto, the key issue for banks has been, are they able to custody it? Up till now, they haven't been able to, given the way the accounting rules have been applied. But to the extent to which that changes, I mean, that's then something we'd be interested in custodying.
Now, Circle CEO Jeremy Allaire is joining us from Davos to talk a lot more about what to expect from the Trump administration and his own deal making. Jeremy, thank you for joining us. Of course, you did have your own deal. And what's interesting to me is when you go out to acquire a company here, it does relate to the less controversial parts of the crypto market. Of course, that is U.S. Treasuries. It's related to stable coins. As there is a big hope here from the crypto industry that we will see more stablecoin regulation come out of Congress in this next cycle, how quick do we get it, and what does it mean for your business now that you've expanded?
Look, I think the stablecoin legislation is top of the list for agenda items to work on. I think the congressional leaders that are responsible are focused on this. And so, we're hearing that from major stakeholders everywhere, whether it's payments companies, banks, the crypto industry. And so we're excited to see that evolve. And likewise, as you noted, our business is evolving as well. As we've tokenized cash with USDC. We want to tokenize treasury bills and money markets and kind of be the money layer on the internet. And so this acquisition of Hashnote and the largest TMMF in the world, USYC, really adds to the core capabilities that we have of bringing money on chain.
Jeremy, on legislation, crypto yesterday not mentioned in the president's inaugural address. We haven't seen any executive orders related to crypto yet. We did see some on immigration, trade, energy, TikTok. Are you concerned at all that, given what we saw in the last 24 hours, this isn't necessarily as much of a priority for the president as many had thought?
Not at all. I expect to see executive orders, and I expect to see key agenda items here. There's a lot to do, and I expect the Trump administration to continue to be in the limelight with a lot of action. And obviously, we're going to start seeing action from the regulatory agencies, action in Congress, and so I think you'll see that out of the White House as well.
Well, it's interesting. You have a few things going on at the same time. You have the Biden administration really going against congressional decision-making here when it came to Staff Accounting Bulletin number 121. Of course, that this would be addressing rules around accounting for the crypto industry. At Davos, it's been reported that you've been talking about how this might be one of the first things that is addressed. And if it is, what does it really unlock?
Well, I mean, I think it was in the policy platform for President Trump, and I know it's a major issue for industry and certainly within the broader Republican leadership. And so my expectation is that we will see that repealed, whether that's by executive order. I don't know the legality of how all these things are done, to be frank, but I do think that will be repealed. And just as you heard from the CEO of State Street, Ron O'Hanley, banks need this clarity and corporations need this clarity so they can hold crypto assets on their balance sheets and provide custody and do other things and not have it be punitive, which really SAB 121 has been punitive in many respects and is a huge headache for public companies. And so I think making this all more capital markets friendly, custodian friendly, financial institution friendly is going to take place.
Well, the president has been in office only for about 24 hours at this point, Jeremy, and we're already getting quite a bit of news when it comes to areas that I know are of focus to you. The president has tapped acting chairs for the SEC, for CFTC, and the FDIC. On the SEC, Mark Ueda will serve as the SEC's acting chair until President Donald Trump installs a permanent head. What do you think of that pick? And do you think we see moves quickly ahead of a permanent pick for the SEC?
I think very highly of Mark and, of course, Commissioner Pierce. And I know she's, active, very active with the crypto industry and has called today, I believe, for some specific engagements. I know acting Commissioner Pham on the CFTC side similarly. And so, Mark laid out, I think, a roadmap for what he wanted to see happen, even on an interim basis. And so we'll see if he carries forward with that. But I think he's an excellent choice as this interim chair.
Jeremy, I want to go back to where we started the discussion, this acquisition of Hashnote, largest issuer here of tokenized treasuries. You mentioned first comes regular way money, and then comes the expansion into treasuries. But then what about the future? Because does it set the stage here for what a lot of Wall Street is looking at, more tokenized bonds? Can you start to look at a scenario here where Circle gets into the business of tokenized corporate debt as well?
Well, look, I think, we want to be the money layer of the internet, and, kind of money. And as we think about money, sort of collateral money, treasury money, cash money, that's really the opportunity we see. And I think having a framework and having, tokenized cash and tokenized treasuries through these structures is a huge unlock to bringing more of capital markets on chain. And so, a huge focus for us is improving the way that collateral works in digital asset markets, but also importing the way on-chain money, including USDC, USYC, can we bring those into traditional finance and the operation of how capital markets work in traditional finance? And I think if we can get those things up and running and scaling, that really does pave the way for a huge range of other types of tokenized assets. But we're not in the business of issuing other assets. We want to focus on the money layer of the internet.
Jeremy, does that roadmap, do those priorities involve other future acquisitions?
We're I think a sizable company with an important footprint, and we have a huge ecosystem of partners and developers and all around the world. And so as we build the company, we've made acquisitions in the past. Some of those are really key technologies and products in our broader portfolio today. And so, we are always evaluating, opportunities to acquire great teams, opportunities to grow in new lines of business, and we'll continue to look at opportunities as any player would.
Jeremy, another big question in the market is IPO plans. Do you have any update on how quickly you can get to market?
Look, all I can really say is we're very committed to becoming a global publicly traded company in U.S. markets. We think that Circle is known, and why so many companies do business with us is because of our trust, transparency, good governance, compliance, and ethical decision-making. Those are key parts of who Circle is, and I think becoming a global publicly listed company just deepens all of those and is really additive to the company's business and what we're trying to accomplish. And so very committed to that path, but of course I can't make any comments on regulatory timelines or anything like that.
Circle's Jeremy Allaire. Jeremy, always good to see you. Thanks so much for checking in from Davos. Do appreciate that. Well, coming up, more on congressional and regulatory crypto policy under Trump. That's with Coinbase head of U.S. policy, Calvert.
And to access all the latest data and news on crypto, check out CRYP Go on the terminal. This is Bloomberg.
This week in Davos, Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong commented on Trump's inauguration. He said, quote, "The Trump effect cannot be denied. To have the leader of the largest GDP country in the world come out undeniably and say that he wants to be the first crypto president." Joining us now from our DC studio is Coinbase head of U.S. policy, Calvert. Kara, good to have you with us. Good to see you this afternoon. I'll pose the same question that I posed to Jeremy Allaire just moments ago. Covering the inauguration yesterday, I did not hear crypto mentioned once in the president's inaugural address. We did not see any executive orders in the first 24 hours related to crypto. Is this concerning to you that it's not as much of a priority for the president as he said it was during the campaign?
Not at all. I think he made a very clear campaign promise. And ultimately, there are a lot of things to get done in the first 24 hours. And we're not even through the first 24 hours in terms of all of the different things, getting the offices set up, moving forward with all of the different priorities. I believe crypto is absolutely still one of those top priorities, and we'll see movement on that in the very near future, whether it's today, tomorrow. They have a lot of executive orders to get through, but the president has been very clear on his vision for crypto, and I think we'll see that manifest in the next few hours, days.
Kara, I'm also curious about the Trump token that was launched over the last couple of days because the volume was staggering, and you did see the market value reach to be as much as a fourth of the value of the BlackRock spot Bitcoin ETF. So just a tremendous size here. When you're making decisions about how to list tokens, is there going to be a big difference moving forward now that the rules might also change along with it? And when you see volumes of that size, does Coinbase move to consider listing it more quickly?
Yeah, I think what we've really tried to do is stay token agnostic. We have a very clear listing process that we adhere to for every asset when it comes onto the potential platform, and that includes security, compliance, the legal parameters. So we're very careful in how we analyze those different types of assets. We did list the asset on Saturday, and we have seen volumes. We're the most trusted platform, and so we have gone through that process. And ultimately, I think it just really shows the exuberance of both the community for Trump, but also demonstrates that Trump's really excited about crypto right now, and I think he will carry that forward in the first 100 days. We're seeing that, again, play out with his nominations. I think it's very clear that he has a pretty straightforward litmus test for some of these nominees to make sure that they they recognize his vision and they want to carry it out.
Kara, one more on the Trump and Melania coins that Shonali asked about. We talked to Zeke Fox, author of Number Go Up, a little earlier, our colleague here at Bloomberg News, and he made the point that this announcement, this launch, these launches were not necessarily treated with open arms across the crypto industry. Do you see it as a plus or a minus, as a positive or a negative when it comes to the crypto industry?
Well, I think it hit with such a big bang that it got a lot of attention. It got attentions from all different parts of the political spectrum, from everybody in the ecosystem, everybody who is asking, all right, how are we going to deal with all of these different assets? And I think what it did is actually shine a bright light on the fact that we do want to have some regulatory clarity. We do want to have clear understanding of when assets are listed and what kind of compliance requirements you have. So I think that what it did for us, certainly with Coinbase, and for I think many in the industry, is underscore the need to work with Congress on a bipartisan basis, work with the regulators as they're coming into office to really make sure that we, really on behalf of customers and investors worldwide, they know what they're getting. They know what to expect. They know the rules of the road.
Kara, as the largest U.S. exchange, what are you watching for? Because anybody who's watching the crypto universe here, there's a lot to really unravel with this new administration, as well as the new picks that they put at the heads of major regulatory bodies. So if you had to narrow it down to one thing, what would it be for you?
Cooperation. I think that's the one thing that is going to be a massive game changer for the next 6 months. We have regulators now. And that includes the CFTC, the SEC. Don't forget the prudential regulators. That's going to be a major part when we think about how do we unwind some of the really disastrous policies that have been put in place that have actually debanked many parts of this industry. And so I think that cooperation that will happen on the regulatory side, along with the legislators. You've got a great foundation in the House with the bill that passed last year. I think we have seen that will likely evolve in some way. But now you have the Senate also working together and in tandem with the House, with the regulators. I think the cooperation is going to be the single biggest game changer that will move the ball forward in the next 100 days. And I think I'm very bullish that we'll see legislation in the next 6 months and passed into law and signed to the president's desk.
I think it's very fair to say that there are many out there who argue, too, that there needs to be consumer protections in place within the industry. What consumer protections would you want to see?
Yeah. Well, at its core, putting in place a market structure regime in the SEC and the CFTC, that is really about extending consumer protections in a meaningful way, really from a regulator at the federal level. Right now, a company like Coinbase, we have 45 money transmission licenses, we have a BIT license, we have a trust charter, we have a broker-dealer license under the SEC, we have licenses under the CFTC, we have international licenses. What we really need to do is have a federal regulator for these that work together and that can actually make sure that those consumer protections are extended across the country, no matter where you live. You know where to go, you know what the rules are, and then more importantly, every player in this ecosystem has to play by the same rules. That, I think, is core to any kind of investor or consumer protections going forward.
Kara, we thank you for joining us. That is Coinbase's Kara Calvert from DC, of course. A very busy day there. And as the Trump administration makes sweeping changes across multiple industries, you can stay on top of everything through our T-Live blog on your Bloomberg terminal. As you can see there, there's everything you need to know about Trump's first day in office. This is Bloomberg.
Well, earlier today at the World Economic Forum in Davos, our own Francine Lacroix sat down with Franklin Templeton CEO Jenny Johnson to talk about crypto under the new Trump administration.
It's really important to think of blockchain as a technology, as a programming language, right, that does certain things really well. I do think that it's likely that ETFs and mutual funds will ultimately be built on blockchain just because it's an incredibly efficient technology. And then there's the crypto world, some of which I think has tremendous opportunity, and some of which I think it'll be noise. It'll be a little bit like the dot-com era when, eventually you had some of the biggest companies of the next decade that came out of it, and then you had a lot that kind of blew away to the side. And so I think the crypto world is similar. I think the thing with the Trump administration is we're going to start to see them converge more, the TradFi and the crypto, which is something that we need. We need to have some sort of regulatory clarity so that you can bring these together because fundamentally it will drive out costs, and there is great innovation that the technology enables.
And of course, that was Franklin Templeton CEO Jenny Johnson in Davos just this morning. My question, Tim, is if you could raise money through crypto markets so efficiently, and you're seeing rules being really lightened in a lot of ways, why go public? Why not just raise money through the crypto markets? I spent a lot of time with Jenny on just this topic, and there is an efficient way to use blockchain even in traditional markets, but there's going to be a group of people and a group of companies that may choose a different route from day one.
Well, I think a lot of people would look back to the ICOs of sort of the earlier era of Bitcoin and crypto and say, wait a second, those necessarily weren't as successful as those investors wanted them to be. And maybe there's more legitimacy with tapping the public markets with the traditional IPO, perhaps.
And even under the former Trump administration and the SEC that cracked down on a lot of those ICOs, let's see if the behavior gets a little unruly this time around once again.
That is going to do it for Bloomberg Crypto. Join us again next week with another edition of the program. This is Bloomberg.